massive killing in Al-Mawasi, at least 90 people dead. And Israel doesn't even seem sure that they actually hit the Hamas leader that they were going for.
I listened to the interview of Netanyahu. He speaks like he targeted the Hamas commanders in a forest, and he's talking about trees that have been burned around. Total disregard for human casualties, assuming that what Netanyahu is saying is true, which until now is not verified. But assuming it is true, this is still a crime. You targeted 90 civilians. The number can rise. We're talking about 300 injured in a safe zone that has been designated as safe zone, not by Hamas, not by Gaza authorities, not by even the UN, like in other cases. This has been designated as a safe zone by Israel itself. And yet you target them, and then Netanyahu has the audacity to talk about this military achievement. And even if it were true, that does not change the fact that this is a crime. That was an outright, a very clear crime committed and announced by the head of the Israeli state. That's more or less what anyone could say about something like that. Not much could be said about the military achievement. Not much could be said about anything else. Netanyahu has decided that this war will continue. These scenes will keep being repeated. And Netanyahu has learned it very well that everything that can be done against him is simply a few cases in courts here and there that they won't be implemented, few criticism here and there, few statements, some criticism coming from the capitals that usually support him, but eventually everything is going his way.
So was this a win or a success for Netanyahu, or do you think that this attack is going to bring so much condemnation that, in fact, it's just going to make the image of Israel even worse around the world?
It definitely would make the image bad or worse, but it is already bad. It is extremely bad at this moment. If we look at the capitals that used to support Israel, historically speaking, Israel is a bad word now. It's more like a slur in many places where you go to, and where you used to hear support for Israel. However, what we're talking about right here, what is needed right now, is not condemnation. Condemnation is not a legal obligation. Condemnation, it's moral duty that you see something ugly and you say, yeah, that's bad. That has to end. But duty of states, according to international law, according to their own signatures to these international treaties, is that they have to take action, legal action. Here we're talking about sanctions, economic sanctions, in the least, stop supplying weapons to the Israeli army to proceed with these wars. And now, yesterday, there was the comment of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. The man was extremely shocked by the scenes happening right now. But I can't but wonder, why is Israel still sitting, having a seat in the United Nations? I mean, to be a member of the United Nations, to be a member state of the United Nations, you have to sign on the Charter of the United Nations. The Charter very clearly says that you have to be a peace-loving country. I find that very indescribable, to be honest.
So what do you think this will do to those ceasefire talks happening in Cairo, in Doha? Do you see any way forward?
I hope so. That's what I hope. If you're asking about what should happen, yes, the peace talks have to find a result to make the life of civilians, of people, much better, to stop the suffering of the people right now on the ground. If we're asking about what is going to happen, our little experience with human history is that two sides have to be in pain for them to sign on an agreement. I see only one side in pain right now. I see one side being killed, one side being in blood. So I hope so, but there has to be some serious pressure on Israel for it to continue. Israel is not having any serious pressure. Yes, there are cases in the courts. Again, the ICJ is ruling against Israel. The ICC issued arrest warrants. Different courts here and there are starting to issue statements. Political pressure is increasing, but that's not what we're talking about. Netanyahu has made it very clear, and the Israeli leadership from both sides of the spectrum had made it very clear that pressure is not going to pay, is not going to change our stance. In that case, what do? You have to exert a serious amount of pressure. And the amount of seriousness has to be equal to the pain and suffering of the people. And I'm not sure that would be equal. Expelling Israel from the United Nations would not be equal to the genocide happening in Gaza. But there has to be a serious amount of pressure, including sanctions, economic, military sanctions, including political sanctions, isolating Israel, just like what happened in South Africa during the apartheid period, when South Africa was boycotted by every country on earth, almost, except for the United Kingdom and the United States.
We're just going to have to wait and see, as always, if there's going to be enough political pressure to put an end to the fighting. Hassan Ben Imran, thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World.